Okay, shalom. Right, a very, very fascinating lesson. This lesson, there's a continuation to the theme that I've already been going over, and the whole concept of leprosy. Now that links into the concept of Moshiach. So we've got this lesson, plagued, smitten by God. We're going to be looking at this verse. Indeed, he bore our illnesses and our pains. He carried them, yet we accounted him as plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. That's Isaiah 53:04. That's the whole concept of the suffering servant, and it's also the whole concept of Moshiach ben Yosef suffering with us in this exile. One, to atone for our sins, especially the sin of Chilul Hashem, desecration of the holy name. And also, it's very much linked to the concept of the Moshiach. The Moshiach is his name. We've got to distinguish between Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh and his name, because it says Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh is one and his name is one. We cannot perceive the essence of the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. We just cannot perceive it, but there is an aspect to his essence that he desires for us to know, and he makes that known to us. And that's through the concept of his name. And the Moshiach comes in his name, i.e. he's his viceroy, he's his representative in physical reality. That that's infinite is represented by his name. And that's the concept of the Moshiach. So obviously, there's the Moshiach has been spoken against, Lashon Hara. I talked about this in the last previous teachings. But I wanted to make that distinction between Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh that's unknowable and unperceivable, and his name that we have some ability to know. Okay, because he has willed us to be able to know it. So when I say about the sin of Chilul Hashem, or desecration of the holy name, and that being the primary sin, why do I mention that? Because there is absolutely no atonement within Torah for the sin of Chilul Hashem whilst we live. Okay, because this is a high level of sin to actually desecrate the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. But who bears the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh? Moshiach. So because we've got false Moshiachs, we've inherited these from the religions in which we've inherited and the lies that we've inherited from those religions. Like I've spoken about in the previous teachings, we then talk Lashon Hara against the concept of the Moshiach, which is ultimately we're talking about the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, because it is through the Moshiach he has made his name, that aspect of his infinite essence that he has willed to make known to us. That infinite aspect of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh that is made known to us is the Moshiach. Okay, and we've spoken about it. Like I've said, there's three aspects to the Moshiach. There's Moshe. Miriam spoke against Moshe. Miriam represents Knesset Yisrael. So that's the congregation of Israel spoke against Moshe. Then they spoke against the children of Israel, spoke against the bread from heaven. This is the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. And then the spies and the Bnei Israel spoke against the land. And this represents the concept of Moshiach ben Dawid. Okay, so we've spoken against the Mashiach, and in doing so, we're desecrating the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Okay, so that's what I wanted to go. So when I've linked this, and I've said that this is the Mashiach suffering with us in exile, and the primary sin that we need atonement for is Chilul Hashem, because within Torah there is absolutely no possibility of erasing this sin, of atoning for this sin, other than to die. So we have had a provision through the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, who died for us that we might live. So it's all interwoven and interconnected. So he is suffering with us in this exile all the while we are desecrating and speaking Lashon Hara against the Moshiach, which is ultimately against the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, because that is the way that he chose to reveal himself to us and make himself known to us. So his name is linked to the concept of Moshiach. When we are speaking against the Moshiach, we are speaking against his name, which is that aspect of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh that is knowable to us. Okay, so we're desecrating his holy name by desecrating the concept of the Moshiach, and by having false Moshiachs and killing people in the name of these false Moshiachs that we've got. So, go back to what I've just said. This concept here, the suffering servant, is really related to Moshiach ben Yosef, who is in exile with us to prevent us from descending to the 49th level of impurity. And he's also there to atone primarily for sins, because the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef is at the level of Yechida, and the sin of Chilul Hashem is at the letter Yud of the name Yod He Waw He. The Yechida is the thorn, the tip of the Yud. And atonement means covering, so you can only cover over sins from above. So you've got to understand, his soul had to be at a level that is higher than the actual sin of Chilul Hashem, which the sin of Chilul Hashem is the body of the Yod. So he had to be the tip of the Yod in order to cover over that sin. That's why the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef is the Yechida. In order to accomplish this, he is the covering for our sin of Chilul Hashem, which basically is linked to, like I've said, the defamation against the concept of the Moshiach of Yod He Waw He, because we've inherited lies and we can't do any other. We've inherited some lies that give us some truth about the concept of Moshiach, and then some lies that cause separation, that cause duality, and that do not reveal the unity of the name Yod He Waw He. Okay, and I've gone back, I've done this in previous lessons, the image of the staff and the serpent. There's two aspects to that. There's a staff, like something that's there to help you, and there's a serpent, something that's there to bite you. And most people's understanding of the Moshiach is in this term. It's a serpent and a staff. It's two things, some truth, some lie. Okay, we need to so we're revealing the Aleph, the inner unity. And this is us maturing and overcoming those lies that we've inherited through our religions, and through the even the programming of this exilic mindset that we have been subject to, the Greco-Roman mindset, and all the influence that comes as a result of that, even if it's knee-jerk reaction to that, i.e. The Romans are saying one thing, therefore we're going to say the absolute opposite, even if what the I'm talking about within Christianity. Christianity's descended into Edom, so the Jewish peoples have had a knee-jerk reaction to that concept of Moshiach ben Yosef descending into Edom, but it hasn't been and not everything's been a truthful knee-jerk reaction. It's been a knee-jerk reaction, and it needs to be brought into, it needs to be rectified. Okay, I hope you're with me with that. So, Chilul Hashem, going back to it, desecration of the holy name. Okay, very much linked to the concept of the Moshiach. Even repentance. Repentance cannot atone. Even with the Yom Kippur, it only goes up, and even the Jubilee year, they only are able to atone for sins at the level of the first letter He, because that's why you've got the word teshuva. So teshuva, which is linked to our personal repentance, it means repentance, and the repentance of the children of Israel on the day of Yom Kippur, and repentance that comes as a result of the Jubilee year. There's all kinds of ways we can access repentance. We can return to Yod He Waw He. However, repentance in itself only allows us to repent whilst alive up to the letter He. So we can only cleanse from sins up to the letter He of the name Yod He Waw He. Over and above that, we have the only way that we can atone for sins that are above the letter He, like desecration of the holy name, is via our death, because our death creates a halal, that's the Hebrew word for like a corpse, and our halal, our empty body, atones for the sin of Chilul Hashem. And the linked, because the word Chilul Hashem, it means we have created a vacuum in the glory of God. So His glory fills the whole world, whole earth, as the waters cover the sea, but because we've desecrated in his name in some way, i.e. the concept of Moshiach, which is a revelation of His name, we empty the world of His glory. We create a space, because we've desecrated it, we've chilul, desecrated the holy name, It's as if we have created a void, an emptiness, a vacuum, a space. So the only way to atone for that is when our bodies are emptied of our soul, halal. Okay, so that's the atonement for doing a desecration of the holy name. And a desecration of the holy name can occur even in our own privacy, the privacy of our own homes. Okay, so it's not, we don't even need to publicly desecrate the holy name. And as I've said before, as a result of the hiddenness of the concept of Moshiach, we are all guilty of the sin of Lashon Hara against the name of Yod He Waw He. So therefore we all need an atonement for that name. The atonement that is for that name is Moshiach ben Yosef. He is the provision that allows us to be completely cleansed of the sin of desecration of the holy name without having to die and become a halal. We don't have to become a corpse. We don't have to empty our own soul out of our body in order to live free of that sin. Yeshua, Moshiach ben Yosef, he's that provision. So yes, he's suffering with us, but he's also an atonement for us, and his atonement specifically for the sins of Chilul Hashem, desecration of the holy name. Okay, and I have done teachings about it. If you go back, look at the teachings for very early on, some of the very early teachings that I've done are based around the fact that Yeshua is an atonement for desecration of the holy name, and there is absolutely no other way other than to die within Judaism, in the Torah Judaism, for this sin. And this is part of the promise that death will be removed. We don't need to die in order to atone for our sins. That's basic. There's a provision that's made. Yes, we can still access certain levels of atonement through our own personal repentance, and this is still very important that we go through repentance to erase, to put right those mistakes that we are able to put right, but we are not able to put right the sin of desecration of the holy name without accessing the provision for that sin, and that is Moshiach ben Yosef. So he's suffering with us in exile. He's bearing our sins, and he's preventing us from descending to the 49th level of impurity. If we got beyond the 49th level of impurity, we couldn't return from that place. We couldn't repent and return. And repentance means teshuv he, and like the sages say, that is return of the letter he, okay, to its rightful place, i.e. the first letter he of the name Yod He Waw He. So teshuv he, repentance, teshuv he is return of the letter he. Okay, and that's we can attain atonement through repentance up to the letter he of the name Yod He Waw He and not beyond. We need a separate provision for all the sins that come above that, including Chilul Hashem. I've really wanted to go through that because some people believe that Jewish people don't need Yeshua as a salvation. It's a whole load of baloney. If they don't accept it, we all need Yeshua. He is the provision for the entire of humanity, including Jewish people. So at that level of sin, we are all one, and we all need the exact same provision. Yod He Waw He has not made a provision separate for the Jewish people within Torah that they can, if we do this mitzvah enough, we'll atone for that sin. There is no mitzvah. At the level of Yechidah, the entire of humanity is one. We have all committed this sin as one man. And we need that provision at that level, okay, in order to be completely rectified and completely atoned for at that level. Okay, so now that I've gone over that and you're very clear, now we can have a look at this verse and see how that links up to some of the teachings that I've previously done about the concept of us being completely covered in leprosy, and that being the will of Yod He Waw He to provide a level playing field at a certain level. Obviously, there's still distinctions between peoples. There will always be the house of Judah and the house of Yosef that you need to unite, and then the nations that surround that. And this is at the microcosmic level and the macrocosmic level. However, when we come to the term Moshiach ben Yosef, we are talking about us at the one new man level, where humanity is united as one man. Okay. So I counted him as placed, smitten by God and oppressed, 822, 219 ordinarily, 1041. Incredible numbers. So first of all, we've got this letter Vav. There's 3 ways to fill the letter Vav. Talk about it a lot. These represents the three different aspects to Moshiach. So the Vav is linked to Moshe. The Vav Aleph Vav is linked to Moshiach ben Yosef, and the Vav Yud Vav is linked to Moshiach ben David. And I've gone in previous lessons and gone through why that is so. Together they come to 317, which is the exact word for Vayikra. And in Vayikra, it's the first word of the book of Leviticus, and it's got a little letter Aleph, a diminished letter Aleph. This represents the concept of Moshiach in exile suffering with us. Okay, it represents Moshe in his humility, and Moshe was humbled enough to go into the Erev Rav exile in order to rectify those holy sparks trapped within the Erev Rav. Moshiach ben Yosef has gone within the Edomite exile to rectify those sparks trapped within there. So they are very much diminished. They're in a diminished state. The Moshiach represents the Aleph. Moshe is an umbrella term for the Moshiach of Yod He Waw He. And eventually that little Aleph will be transformed into an Aleph Gadol, a big Aleph. Okay, I've talked about that lots, many times. However, if we take the regular and the ordinal and the squared value and add them up together, come to 411. So we can see that this is related to the concept of the Vav. The Vav also represents Tifereth, and the Vav also represents truth. Okay, give truth to Yaakov. What truth? O Joseph Chai. It's all linked up to the letter Vav. It's also linked up to the 6 days of creation. The 6 days of creation are represented by the letter Vav because the letter Vav is the 6th letter in the Aleph Bet, and it represents those 6 days. Okay. And also the 6 Sfiroth represented by Yaakov, represented by Tifereth. So you've got Tifereth, Yesod, Gvura, Chesed, Hod, and Netzach. They're the 6 Sfiroth that are associated with the letter Vav, and they're associated with those 6 days of creation. And those 6 days of creation parallel the 6,000 years with which we are rectifying the entire of creation to reveal the Moshiach of Yod He Waw He, and the oneness of his name, and through that we are able to perceive the oneness of Yod He Waw He. Okay, so it's all connected to this whole concept of the suffering servant with us rectifying the whole of creation in order to reveal the truth that there's only Yod He Waw He, nothing else beside him. And one of the most difficult aspect for us to understand whilst we are in this exile is the whole concept of the suffering of the righteous. Okay, why we have to suffer. It's a very, very difficult. Moshe never, it's what's called the 50th gate, by the way. Moshe never attained that. Moshe only got up to the 49th gate of understanding. We need to attain the 50th gate of understanding, that where we're able to perceive Yod He Waw He face to face. And it is a very, very difficult thing to truly be able to perceive Yod He Waw He face to face when we are confronted by the depth of suffering that humans have had to suffer, like the Holocaust, like the slave trade, and all manner of suffering that we've been afflicted, like the diseases that we've had to bear and things like that. It's very, very difficult for us to access that unity and that oneness of the name Yod He Waw He through the overwhelming reality of human suffering. And that then linked up to the concept of the suffering servant, Moshiach suffering with us in this exile. Okay, it's very difficult to transition from suffering to revelation because suffering conceals. It conceals the unity And it's very difficult, like I say, when you're faced with the complexity of things like Holocaust. There's so many things that you need to bring into there's so many different ways and important concepts that you've got to be thoroughly clarified with in order to reveal that unity through something like the Holocaust, or something like the slave trade, or something like childhood diseases and cancers and all the manner of suffering that are inflicted on children who haven't sinned. So you can understand why Moshe was not able to attain that 50th gate. However, through Moshiach ben David and Moshiach ben Yosef on Moshe together, we will attain that 50th gate of understanding why we've had to suffer. Okay, and through that suffering itself, the unity, the oneness, the absolute sovereignty of Yod-Heh-Wah will ultimately be revealed at the time He wills it. Okay, so we're in a process of getting to that stage where that unity is revealed. Okay, and it will all probably happen in the blink of an eye, but up until then it's very difficult to understand this whole concept of suffering realistically. We can we can whitewash over it, we can put a sticky bandage over it, and we can have very immature understanding of it, but at the very highest, deepest levels, like we're talking about the level of Moshe not even being able to attain clear understanding of the suffering of the righteous, at that level it gets very complicated because there's obviously a lot to consider, and we are even at a level where we're conscious enough to be able to perceive the things that Moshe was able to perceive. So we've got to attain very exalted levels of consciousness in order to be able to clearly perceive the unity through something like the Holocaust, the suffering of the Holocaust, and all the other sufferings that I've talked about. But one thing for sure, the fact that the Moshiach, the soul of the Moshiach, is in us, suffering with us, is going to be a part of that ultimate unity, because when Moshiach is in this exile with us, it is the very name of Yod-Heh-Wah himself that is in this situation with us. That aspect of him that can be diminished to within finite creation, that is linked to the concept of Moshiach, is with us suffering. God is with us in all our sufferings. And this too is a part of that revelation of the unity, but it is very difficult. It is very difficult to say, to reveal that unity through the concept of suffering, because there's so many questions involved. Why did it ever create a creation that allowed the possibility for such levels of suffering? Why would anybody create anything like that? So the questions are very, very deep, and you need very, very profound answers to them that are linked to the whole concept of free will and things like that. It's very difficult to reveal that oneness. And certainly part of my teachings are in the hope of revealing that oneness through concepts like suffering. Won't be able to attack that just quite in this lesson, but we'll be building up towards that. So 411, it's these three vavs filled three different ways. Okay, and we know that that is linked to the suffering servant, because this 317 is exactly the same gematria as Vayikra, the first word of the book of Leviticus, with the little aleph, the whole concept of Moshiach diminished, suffering with us in our exile, in our exiled consciousness, where we are not able to fully perceive the concept of Moshiach because we're not fully rectified and perfected, and through that we are not be able to fully because we've got a diminished understanding of the Moshiach, we are then not able to fully reveal the complete unity of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah and his absolute sovereignty. We need to elevate up to the highest levels possible. We need to rectify and perfect ourselves. Okay, and we need to all unite as one in this rectification and this perfection. in order to really, truly be able to reveal that absolute unity and sovereignty of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Very, very difficult, long process involved in that. We will get there. It won't be defeated. Why will it not be defeated? Because Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh has willed that this be so, that his sovereignty and unity be ultimately revealed. And he has set a time frame for that revelation. And he is with us in this exile, perfecting us to be able to finally receive that revelation that there is only him and nothing else beside him. It's his will. We cannot defeat it at all. It will happen. Okay, so that we do know. But like I say, it can sometimes feel very far away with us, the answers to why we have suffered to the degree we have suffered. Here we go, look. We've got this whole concept of, I do believe that 411, it must be 3 times 137. Just let me have a think. Yeah, so 411 is 3 times 137, so that would be 6 times 137 is 822. So this is Amalek filled. Amalek is that doubt, isn't it? The doubt, because the doubt is primarily connected to the concept of suffering. Amalek creates a lot of doubt regarding Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh and regarding the concept of Moshiach, especially the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef and the truth, Od Yosef Chai. You have to battle with this force of Amalek, and Amalek is about the biggest source of suffering that humanity has ever experienced. Amalek's responsible for the Holocaust. We're talking that level of suffering. He's probably very much associated with the slave trade, because, that level of barbarity and cruelty and just the denial of humanity and eugenics and everything like that is all associated with Amalek. God not fearing God at all, not fearing imposing suffering on a human at all, no regard that man is made in the image of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh at all, just total and utter what you would call proper psycho, I can't remember the name of it now, sociopaths, complete total sociopaths, that kind of mentality that you go up against with certain individuals, but it's very much related to just a hate of humanity, a hate of God, and a hate of man made in the image of God. There's a lot of scientists at the moment that you've got a spirit of Amalek, so you can't really trust scientists at this time. There's a lot of what's called scientism, and there's a root for that. I've talked about it before. The fact that in the USA, immunity was given to the Nazis that were scientists. Over 1,000 scientists brought over from Nazi Germany, and they took up the top offices at NASA, CIA, FBI. It's incredible. The UN. All these institutions were filled by what were formerly high-ranking Nazi officials. So now we've got a problem because this spirit of Amalek that is represented by the Nazis has infiltrated science at the highest level possible. And it influences a lot what goes on in the universities, and it influences a lot what goes on in medicine, and that's why you can't always trust doctors and medicine. And that is well documented. You can just read about it, the fact that they did that. Not only did they do that, but there was a unit called 731, Unit 731 in Japan. They gave immunity to all these. You can't believe the wickedness. And they were doing experiments on medical experiments on humans, different viruses and things like that. But kidnapping people off the streets. You just need to go research it, Unit 731. I will point out, by the way, Unit 731 is a very important number because it is the unity between Moshe and Yeshua. The only chance we have to defeat Amalek is to unite the concept of Moshe with Yeshua. It's an absolute fact. And also 731 is the regular and ordinal of Melech Israel, King of Israel. We can only go up against these Amalekite forces that have now infiltrated America. You know, we can only go up against these forces when we unite the concept of Moshe and Yeshua and Mashiach ben David as well. Okay, the whole concept of Mashiach together. So we've got Vav filled with an Aleph is also 137. The Vav filled with an Aleph up here, this is it filled out to the second filling. This is Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay, this represents Mashiach ben Yosef. We've got 56, which is the ordinal of Teshuvah. Together they come to 193. 193 times 2 is 386, which is Yeshua. Okay. Blessed is he who come in the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. So we've got the Mispar Gadol of that. 713, by the way, is Teshuvah. Okay. That's Teshuvah regular. The 56 is Teshuvah ordinally. So like I say, we've got to go through a process of repentance. But at the end of the day, there are levels of repentance that we need to access through the what Yod-Heh-Waw is provided for us. We can't do it all ourselves. And it is the fact that we can't attain personal atonement for all our sins. Okay, we can only go up to the letter He, but then after the letter He, we're not at the individual level. We have to go to collective levels. You know, we have to rely on collective provisions, and the collective provisions at the sins within the letter Yod would be this Mashiach ben David, and above the letter Yod, we all have to then rely on those collective provisions, which is Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay, and that's what unites us all together. That's what brings unity for all humanity, and through the unity of all humanity, we see the unity of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. And we understand then that part of the suffering is caused by the separation, the way we have separated ourselves from that aspect of us that is in common. Okay, and we have not yet fully united together as one humanity, and as a consequence of that, that separation is the part of the source of our suffering. Okay, so we've got to access the levels of provision that unite all humanity together, i.e. levels of provision through the suffering of Moshiach at the level of Mashiach ben Yosef primarily, then Mashiach ben David, and also Moshe. So 1644 is 2 times accounted him as plagued, smitten by God, and oppressed. And Yeshua said, "You will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh." And there's a lot to be understood with that. We can see here 1644 plus 132 is 1776, which is 2 times 888. 888 is HaMoshiach, filled out, the Moshiach. So it's all connected again to this concept of Moshiach. We are trying to attain unity for all humanity, and through that unity, we're able to perceive the unity of the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Okay, and it's all through the concept of Moshiach. There's no other way that unity can be attained for humanity. There's no other way in the entire of creation that can be attained except through the concept of Moshiach, because that is the way that Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh has will to reveal his unity. But we have all got to unite here down below through the power of the soul of the Moshiach within each of us, awakening us up and arousing us and causing that unity even within each of our individual lives, and drawing us together as one and helping us to understand that concept of unity. Right, so we've got all these. Just wait a minute, let me pull up so I know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is the tree of life, isn't it? These are the 10 Sefirot and the tree of life. If we add up the regular and the ordinal of each of the 10 Sefirot, crown, wisdom, understanding, loving kindness, might or severity, beauty, foundation, eternity, glory, and kingdom, we add them all up, the regular and the ordinal, it comes to 3,288, which is 2 times 1,644, which is Mashiach ben Yosef, as we've said up here, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. Made it clear. They were the words of Yeshua. You will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who has come in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. This is telling us that we have to understand what that means. It's not just words that we say out of our mouth. What does that mean? What does it mean to come in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh? And that goes back to what I was saying right at the beginning, that Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh has willed to reveal that is part of his infinite essence in finite reality, and that it can only be attained through the concept of Moshiach, the Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, that is his name. And somehow we're all a part of it, because don't forget, we are all made in his name. Okay, we are all made in the image of his name. We all carry an aspect, a spark of his name, and that's why we've got to unite in order to reveal the unity. And the only way we can unite is through the concept of Moshiach, understanding what Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is trying to be doing through these 6,000 years of human history. So we can see that's linked up to all these. Amalek obviously standing in the way of that unity, creating doubt. Doubting what? Doubting the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, doubting the perfection that he's trying to attain, doubting the unity that the Moshiach reveals. Okay. And then we've got Nachesh, Yenachesh, divines. I think this is, can't quite remember where that's from now. But anyway, it comes to 726, 96 ordinally, and together they come to 822. Let me just go find out where that's from. Okay, so but this is very significant. It's twice in the Torah, Nachesh, Yenachesh. And obviously Nachesh means the serpent. So this divines is related to the power of the serpent. And this is what is related to the cup of divination that was Joseph's, that was put in the sack of Benjamin. Okay. And so twice it's mentioned. Once when the interpreter is telling the brothers about, this cup of divination that is Joseph's, and once when Joseph is telling his own brothers, about the surely I divine and things like that. I suppose if you really looked into it, he's giving you a clue in a very hidden way that he is part of the concept of the Moshiach. Okay, because the Moshiach, we don't get the concept of the Moshiach revealed. You don't give it to us handed on a plate. What we get is given the serpent, and we've got to transform the serpent into the concept of the Moshiach. So we get the serpent and it bites us continually until we transform that into the revelation of the unity, until we see the Aleph within that whole serpent experience. So that's why you've got Yeshua lifted up. Just as Moshe lifted up the serpent on the staff, so too the Son of Man must be lifted up. And that is really going back to what I initially said. What we get is a concept of the Moshiach, that there's two aspects to it. Well, there's a rod, like the rod of Elohim that helps and assists us, the staff that Moshe had in his hand, the staff of Aaron, things like that. So there's a positive aspect to that. But then there's the serpent that bites, and you got them both together. So what is it? And this is the whole concept of going through that refinement. We get given the duality, and we've got to reveal the unity from the duality itself. So this is in part, we've got this connection to this phenomena. Like Yod-Heh-Wah expects us to do the hard work below. He has not said, here I am. He has given us the opposite of himself. And we have to refine that opposite and transform it from the thing that is obscuring and concealing the name Yod-Heh-Wah into that reveals the name Yod-Heh-Wah. So the fact that he used this Nachesh, and it was to do with that divination cup, that ultimately was the thing that brought unity between the brothers and enabled Joseph to finally redeem himself. Okay. And become united with his father once again. So we can see there's a connection between this, between the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef and going back to Yosef. And like I say, it's to do with the fact that Yod He Wahweh desires for us to reveal that unity through our own effort and hard work below. And when we are faced with the depth of faith that He has had in us, to even to the point where He has allowed us to go up against forces like Amalek and the Nazis and suffer to the degree that we have, because we haven't always been able to overcome them straight away. And we're still in a world where we haven't overcome all the forces of evil, but His faith in us is incredible, that He has put us in that situation, just as Joseph was put in the situation he was put in. Then he ultimately overcome all those forces of Egypt to become the viceroy himself, to get to the very highest positions of power within Egypt. And Egypt was just full of black magic and sorcery and everything like that. All this divination that's represented by the serpent, and it's transforming all that into a revelation of unity. It's all connected. And this 726, by the way, is 2 times 363, and 363 is regular for HaMoshiach, the Messianic. So we can see again those connections. Okay, it's all wonderful stuff. And then we've got this, haven't we? We are ultimately being made righteous so that we will be totally and utterly betrothed. We represent the final letter here of the name Yod He Wahweh, and we will be totally and utterly betrothed to that letter Vav that represents the Moshiach, the three aspects of Moshiach: Moshe, Yeshua, Moshiach ben Yosef, and Moshiach ben David. That is our husband, and that is the name of Yod He Wahweh. Okay, and we are the bride, the one that's been working from below in order to create that unity between heaven and earth. So, and I will betroth you to me forever, and I will betroth you to me with righteousness and with justice and with loving kindness and with mercy, and I will betroth you to me with faith. You shall know Yod He Wahweh. Oh, and then it's got the Aleph and the Tav even, hasn't it? So Et Yod He Wahweh, and the significance in that, because this is very much related to the concept of the Shekinah, and We'et is related to the concept of the divine masculine. So there's something in that. I can't go into that yet because I've not really thought about it. But the Mispar Gadol of these two verses together comes to 822. Okay, so there's a reason why He's suffering with us, because He's preparing His bride. He's preparing His bride with us in order for us to be lifted up for that perfect unity between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, between heaven and earth, between Israel and the nations, between body and soul. This is one of the concepts that I go over again and again and again, both at the macrocosmic level and at the microcosmic level. So each of us in our own individual lives, but then all of us collectively united into at the levels that we are part of that macrocosmic version of that unity as well. Okay, so it's all wonderful, it's all glorious. Let's have a look at some more numbers which are even more wonderful. So indeed He bore our illnesses and our pains, He carried them, yet we accounted Him as plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. So accounted Him as plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. We're looking at this one now, 219. All dreams follow the mouth of the interpreter. So this is regarding, is very much connected to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. But I talk about this a lot. We have got this reality before us, and we could easily interpret that in terms of separation. Okay, it's like we're in a dream. It's so horrific, this nightmare that we've been subject to. We literally could interpret this reality and be very justified interpreting this reality in terms of there cannot be a God at all. You are almost justified, because the level of human suffering is so great. This accounted Him plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. And by the way, we are all part of the Moshiach that is plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. Okay, well, it looks that way, but we're just being prepared. Okay, as much as the husband is, it's like this, as much as the husband is with us suffering in exile, we at the same time are hidden between that separation of heaven and earth. Is really hidden a oneness. The divine, just as much as the Moshiach that represents the Vav is suffering with us that represent the He in this exile, we too are suffering with the Moshiach because we are the Moshiach. So as much as he is us, we are him in perfect unity. But that unity is not revealed. So as much as he is in the depths of exile with us, suffering with us that represent the letter He, we by the same measure are in exile as him himself that is suffering with us. There really is no separation. That's what I'm trying to say. But that separation, what's revealed is the separation. The unity is not yet revealed. We're in a process where we will eventually reveal that unity, that we are him and he is us. There is no separation. Just as there's no separation between the Yod and the He, there actually is no separation in truth between the Vav and the He. Because the name of Yod He Wahweh is one, and Yod He Wahweh is one, and his name is one. We will awaken up to that complete unity, that we are completely him and he is completely us. And you know that we won't be able to separate between the Vav and the He. I hope you're with me with that one. But it's very difficult to interpret that. It's very difficult to reveal that unity. It's very difficult to feel that unity and experience that unity. What we experience is the suffering and the separation. We just experience the separation. Heaven feels like 1 billion miles away some days. You know, we feel just down here alone, lost, impoverished, filthy, suffering. You know, we feel the loss and the emptiness of being separate from our husband who we should be united with. That's what we feel. That's the whole experience of the Shekinah trapped in exile, and why Jews rise up at midnight to consider the suffering of the Shekinah. And by the way, we're on today's date, is the 17th of Tammuz, which is the beginning of the period of 3 weeks of mourning for the destruction of the temple. So it starts, you know, there's a 3 week period of mourning up until the 9th of Av, where the temple was destroyed. And this is the whole concept of the Shekinah in exile. You know, totally and utterly diminished. And yet from that we've got to be able to perceive the unity, what has really gone on. Oh, there's so many beautiful things that we're going to come across through this verse. It's unbelievable. But we've got to start to open our mouth and speak about the unity. That's one of the steps. We've got to be able to speak Od Yosef Chai, the truth about Yosef. Yosef is still alive. But more important like that, we've got to reach that level where we're able to say there is nothing but Yod He Wow He. And we've got to be able to speak about the unity. And we've got to be able to perceive that unity in order to speak about it. So we've got to interpret this dream in accordance to the name of Yod He Wahweh, as opposed to through the experience that most of us have experienced. I've talked about this before. This is really, really important. Before we have rectified the concept of Moshiach, we are in a state that's opposite to Moshiach. The opposite to the Moshiach is the Nachash, the serpent. So rather than seeing it from the perspective that we ourselves are the Moshiach and the Moshiach is us, we're seeing it through the serpent eyes, and the whole of reality looks a lot worse when you're looking at it crawling around on your belly, eating dirt all day long, and getting all those, you know, like the serpent hissing in your ear, telling you all the miserable things in life to focus on. So when we have not elevated ourselves up to realise and recognise the soul of Moshiach actually within us, individually but also collectively, then we will be like little serpents crawling around on our bellies, hissing at everything, accusing everything of everybody of causing us pain and misery. And we feel that, we actually experience that. We are literally like little serpents crawling around on our bellies in exile, just getting crushed. You know, we have got to start to interpret reality as we actually are. You know, when we're conscious of the fact that we have got an aspect of Moshiach within us, we need to, which is an aspect of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. We ourselves bear that name. We've got to start speaking through that reality, as opposed to speaking through our little slitty-eyed serpent reality. We've got to interpret this dream according to the truth. And the truth is that we are made in the image of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and we should be speaking of the unity of that and not of the separation that comes from the perspective of the false Moshiach, that has us acting and speaking and hissing like serpents all day, every day, accusing everything of everybody of everything, being accusers, not advocates. We've got to advocate for the truth. We've got to advocate for the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. We are made in the image of the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. We are actually not serpents. And even though we've been suffering in this exile, and this reality is not revealed to us clearly, because that suffering has overwhelmed us, we've got to start to stand up instead of crawling around and say, Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive, and also Ein Od Milvado, there is only Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh and nothing else beside him. How can we say this? Because we've become it. We are his name. Okay, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. We have to be his coming. We have to be his coming. I'm not talking about just one person either. I'm talking about all of us have got to arouse ourselves and wake up and start to be his name and start to interpret this dream in accordance to the truth, a true interpretation. That links back to Yosef, who was the only one that was able to truly interpret Pharaoh's dream. Connected to Yoshua ben Nun, who is an appellation for Moshiach ben Yosef, according to the Vilna Gaon, is regular and ordinal, added together, 657, which is 3 times 290. And it's also Haruach, the wind, or it could be the spirit. Haruach, Ruach means wind or spirit. Do not rebel or worship. Do not rebel against him. And it can also be interpreted, do not worship him. Although I've recently had a wonderful conversation with a man that is doing some outreach from within Judaism to the lost house of Yosef, and Christians and Muslims. It's very interesting. He gave me something to consider from Rabbi Bachya. I can't go into it in this lesson, but within the Talmud, there is definitely, I've thought about this, there is definitely this written in Talmud. Do not rebel against him. This is talking about the angel of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, that's Metatron. Okay, we're in Metatronic consciousness. When we've got Metatronic consciousness, we've got the staff and the serpent. When we've got Messianic consciousness, we've got the Aleph there instead. That's the most simple way that I can describe it. We have got the Aleph and we're perceiving the unity. In Metatronic consciousness, we've got the angel of God instead of the King of Kings. We've not got the Moshiach, we've got an angel of God that is there instead, whilst the Moshiach is with us suffering in exile. And there's a dual aspect to that concept of the angel of God, because he's on one side is a pillar of light by night, and then the other side is like fire to Egyptians and stuff like that. So you can imagine we've all got an aspect to us that are B'nai Yisrael, and we've all got an aspect to us that are still part unrectified, still part within the Egyptian camp. We've not fully come over, and we're not because we're not fully rectified, and we're not fully revealed our true self, and there's aspects of our personality that are still bound to exile. Then there's part of us that can, within the Messianic Metatronic consciousness, there's part of us that experience the positive aspect, the staff aspect, like the rod of Elohim aspect, but at the same time we keep getting bitten by the serpent aspect of this angel of God. With Moshiach, there is no There is no separation. Yeshua came as that in order to overcome that to a certain degree, in order to bring that unity for all humanity. He came instead of that, if you like, to overcome that power that we have got within us to perceive duality. He is the provision, if you like, through which we are able to perceive that ultimate unity. Okay, so when it says do not rebel against him, you're not to rebel against the angel of the Lord, or angel of Elohim, because he's got his name within him. Okay, and some of the sages say that name is Shaddai, as in El Shaddai. But within the Talmud, it talks about this word rebel, tamar, meaning do not replace me with him. So what it's really saying, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is saying, right, I'm going to set an angel over you. It's temporary because obviously you've come out of Egypt, but you've still got a lot of that duality. You still can't see the unity. So I've got to set over you an angel which from one side is a pillar of light and then the other side is a pillar of fire. Okay, and that's what the whole concept of Metatron is. He has got, on one side is like Michael, on the other side is Samael. So he's got the advocate and the accuser. And this is when we're in the desert wanderings, when we're not fully refined and we can't yet enter into the promised land. We're stuck with perceiving Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh through this duality. Sometimes if we do this, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, we reveal the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. If we're good, we reveal the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. And if we're not so good, we conceal the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh and end up getting punished. So we're caught in this what's called metatronic consciousness. Why? Because Metatron is there until the King of Kings, which is the Moshiach. Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is the king over kings of kings. The king over kings is the concept of Moshiach. Until the Moshiach is being fully birthed within us and we are completely and totally elevated up to that level of Messianic consciousness where we are able to perceive Ein Od Milvado, we will have something there instead. And the thing that we have there instead is the angel of God. We don't have the Moshiach. We have the angel of God that is instead of Moshiach when we are in a state of somewhere in between redemption and exile, like in the desert. You know, we redeemed people in one way. We've been brought out and saved from Egypt proper, but we've still got Egypt ways of thinking within us, and we're not fully brought over to complete understanding of the unity. So we're perceiving things, you know, we're perceiving things in terms of duality. So we've got the rod and the serpent, and it's only when we can unite them and say, no, there's only Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, okay? And we attain those levels of consciousness where we're able to perceive the Moshiach properly, his name, properly unified, and then we move into what's called Messianic consciousness. And it's only through there where we can say, truly say, Ein Od Milvado, there is only him, nothing else beside him. We've got to transition from metatronic consciousness, the consciousness that exists between Egypt and Israel, the promised land. So there's a whole period, isn't there, the 42 wanderings, those wanderings of faith. We know we're saved, we know God's got his hand over us, but we also, we're not fully there, are we? We've got to go through the second redemption, what's called the Zekira. We've had the Pikude aspect of redemption, the first redemption. We need to go through what's called the Zekira aspect of redemption, the remembering. We've got to remember who we are. When we remember who we are, we'll remember Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh because we are made in his image. We've got to remember that we ourselves are a spark of Moshiach, individually and collectively, and we've got to start to think along those lines, okay? So in the meantime, obviously, until we attain that level of consciousness, we've got like what's the equivalent of a guardian over us, or in some of the texts is called the slave who rules instead, the slave who rules as a king, and he's married to the Mishnah, he's basically married to the tree of knowledge, i.e. this is good, this is bad. But he's not the true king. You got to understand he's what's called the lesser Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. He's a representative of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh in our lesser state, in our diminished state, where we are redeemed but not fully redeemed. Okay, so we're aware of the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, but we're not yet quite aware of his absolute oneness and unity. So in between the rock and the hard place, or whatever, in between Egypt and the promised land, we've got this experience where we're guided by what's called the angel of God, metatronic consciousness. So we're conscious of the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, but we're not fully conscious of his unity. That can only come when we have elevated consciousness. We have attained that level of Moshiach within us to reveal the complete, total unity of the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Okay? But we can't, in the meantime, we can't rebel against him, but ultimately we can't worship him either. Why can we not worship him? Because he is not a complete revelation of the unity. The angel of God cannot, Metatron never, ever can or will reveal the unity of the Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. He's not meant to. He's a slave who rules instead of a king. We've got to overcome that. We can only overcome that when we get to the stage where we have revealed within us that concept of Moshiach to a degree great enough to be able to reject that whole guardianship, if you like, where we can reject that whole guardianship. We don't need the angel of God to guard us anymore. We've got the king over kings himself. Why? Because we have attained the level of king over kings. We have actually attained the level of Moshiach, collectively or individually. It won't happen in full until we've all done it. We can't, not one person can attain this. Even if people can get very, very elevated levels of consciousness, it's something that will happen collectively, all humanity together as one. Okay, to finally bring in and usher in that what's the Messianic era under King David. It will be us collectively that does that. So I hope you can understand what I'm saying. Do not rebel against this angel of God, but don't worship him either. It's temporary. I have to set him over you whilst you're in a state, an in-between state, where you can't perceive me fully. Because if I was to be the guardian over you and reveal myself, you would die. You know, you aren't yet fit to be able to receive a revelation of that unity. You're not rectified enough. The vessels that you are would perish and die if I was to reveal myself in full, to my full capacity, to my full unity. You have not got a vessel to be able to contain that. You've got to do the work below to rectify humanity, to bring you to that place where you have got the vessel that is able to fully receive that I desire to bestow. So in the meantime, I have to set a guardian over me, a lesser light to my name, something that contains my name, but in such a diminished way that it also conceals it to a certain degree. It conceals the unity. Okay, so whilst you're in your broken state, you've got a little bit of me, but it's some revelation of me, but not the complete revelation of me, because you would shatter, your vessels would shatter. You're not able to contain that unity at this time. Your mind is not able to perceive the unity of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. You know, so I can't give you that. I can't set myself over you. I've got to set a slave of Metatron over you. I've got to set a guardian over you until you have become totally elevated up to the level of children of God or sons of God. You can sit in the presence of the King because you know who you are. You know who you are. You know, as long as you're still considering yourself in terms of a slave, you need a slave master. You got to awaken yourself to who you are. You are children of God. You are children of Yod-Heh-Waw. You are made in his image. You've got to waken up to that. When you waken up to that, you've got over you the King over kings of kings. Why? Because you are at the level of king over kings. Sons of God. You know, you've awakened up to yourself completely. You've rectified these lower natures. You've got some dominion over these lower exilic thought patterns. That keeps you thinking like little serpents crawling around on your belly. You got to get over that. You got to be empowered to get over that. The mikveh is a very important thing. I've always talked about this. This gets over the doubt, the Amalek. Because when we're going up against, when all we're doing is suffering, this makes us feel very small. We have got to, even despite the suffering that we have endured, we have got to feel, we've got to never lose fact, that we've got to remember who we are. Zakira means remembrance. We've got to remember who we are. And it be the truth. We've got to remember and remember and remember. And one of the ways that we are able to remember is the mikveh. Because the mikveh helps us to overpower that Amalek, that doubt. It's really an all-independent lesson, but it is linked to all this. You know, we're being tested. Are we going to believe that we are serpents, or are we actually going to believe and recognise that we are an aspect of Moshiach? Which one is it? Are we serpents, or are we children of the living God? What is the truth? What is the truth? Well, we're possibly in an in-between state until we've realised that and recognised it and rectified ourselves enough to reveal that. And that's what we're trying to do. It won't fail. We are children of the living God. We are made in the image of Yod-Heh-Wah. That is the truth. It will be revealed. Okay? It cannot be defeated. It cannot be changed. It simply is. It always was and it always will be. It's just not been fully revealed in our individual lives or in collective lives. It will be. Why? Because Yod-Heh-Wah willed it to be revealed. Okay? And this suffering is part of that. Right, what else have we got then? So, we've got this letter Ayin, which is the missing letter of Yeshua's name, Yeshua Mashiach ben Yosef's name. So it's letter Ayin, 130 regular for Ayin. This is Ayin spelt out, which means I, got to be able to perceive and see. 40 ordinally come to 170. The square ordinals are 552. The Mispar Gadol is 780. The square ordinal Mispar Gadol is 981. So 981 plus the square ordinals come to 1533. Which is, I do believe it's 7 times 219, isn't it? Okay, so 7 times 219. So it's all connected. The letter Ayin, the missing letter Ayin, of the one who has bore our illnesses. Okay, the one who is smitten and oppressed by God. Like I say, we are him and he is us. We've been plagued and smitten by God and oppressed. Just as this is where we really ultimately, through even understanding that, it's part of that revealing that unity of the name Yod-Heh-Wah, isn't it? It's part of that revealing the truth. There's only Yod-Heh-Wah. He didn't make us as serpents. He made us in the image of his name. Okay, so we've just got to reveal that. We've got to be able to see that within ourselves, instead of just seeing that we're little serpents crawling around and everything is going against us in life. Davarim, so that's the book of Deuteronomy, comes to a regular and ordinal that add together to come 876, which is 4 times 219, I do believe. Zot, this, as in this is the Torah. This is when it's talking about clear Torah, where you can point to it. This, it's so clear that you can actually say, this is it. We've got to reach that level where we are so confident in the unity of Yod-Heh-Wah that we're actually able to say, this is it. And even when we're looking at the most horrific examples of human history that would totally and utterly conflict against the idea that there is only Yod-Heh-Wah and nothing else beside, i.e. slave trade, i.e. Holocaust and things like that, we are able to point there and say, this is the Torah, this is a revelation of Yod-Heh-Wah. This is what we've had to go through because we have had to do work below to be the co-creators, because we are made in his image and we are empowered. with that image to overcome even all this evil that we have faced and transform it into a revelation as opposed to a constant, continual concealment of his name. We have got that power within us. And to the extent that that is realised and we can say, this is the Torah, okay? It's that clear to us. It's that revealed to us. It's that obvious to us. We could point to it. Right, Bebeit Avinu, in the house of his father. This is actually he's talking about Moshe, but he's talking about Moshe, and this is how it's written in the New Testament. Okay, so it's talking about Moshe being 3 months in the house of his father. This is taken, I think it's Acts 7:20. Okay, within that is the proof that it's a solar lunar calendar. Okay, when you go back and trace the Greek and then link it up to the actual Hebrew, that is a parallel verse too that's written in Hebrew. It's very, very clear. Even the New Testament confirms 100% that it is a solar lunar calendar. It is not a solar calendar. Okay, and it's very, very important to get that right. And that verse from, I think it's Acts 7:20. I should have done a teaching on it. I plan on doing a teaching soon, because when it comes to the beginning of the month, the word used in that command to start counting the months is the word Zot. Okay, so it's something that we can point to, just like we can point to the moon and say, this is the beginning of the months. Okay, and we've got to get that right, because the whole cycle of time is connected to the whole concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. The whole barley harvest that determines the years, it's all connected to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. Moshiach ben Yosef is the dimension. There's 5 dimensions that are represented by the 5 testimonies, that are represented by the 5 aspects of Moshiach. So there's the aspect of Moshe, that's the stone tablets. There's the aspect of Moshiach ben Yosef, which is the bread of manna, and there's the aspect of Moshiach ben David, that's the Aaron's rod. Okay, when it comes to the bread of manna, that represents the dimension of time. So the bread of the stones and Moshe represent the 3 dimensions of space. Moshiach ben Yosef represents the dimension of time, and everything to do with the marking of time is linked to Moshiach ben Yosef. So you've got the commencement of the barley harvest that commences in spring. When the barley harvest is ripe, and there's all kinds of connections to the concept of Moshiach, i.e. the truth sprouts from the ground. But it's also connected to the whole concept of Moshiach, and Moshiach ben Yosef is connected to the sun. So we've got that connection. The barley, it comes once every solar year, and it's connected to the concept of the sun. However, Moshiach ben Yosef is the throne upon which Moshiach ben David sits. Moshiach ben David is represented by the moon, the cycles of the moon. Okay, and those two you've got to be united together. So we've got that aspect to it too. It's very important to understand that we are talking about a solar lunar calendar. Okay. And the ransomed of Zion shall return. So this is very important, because this ransomed means you've sometimes got to buy people's souls. This is what the Vilna Gaon said. And Yeshua was sold into Edomite slavery, sold into Edomite exile. And I know for a definite fact there's a man called Ariel Cohen Olero, and his website is Facing Each Other. And I've talked about it many times. He is the only man who's a Cohen, that means he's a priest for the house of Aaron, that is actually doing something to raise funds to bring about Pidyon, what's called a Pidyon Haben, redemption of the firstborn son, or Pidyon Nefesh, redemption of the soul, and it's necessary to redeem back Moshiach ben Yosef from the Edomite slavery into which he's been sold. Yosef was sold into slavery. Yeshua has been sold into slavery, Edomite slavery. It's for an ultimate salvation. However, there may be some processes that, according to Torah, in order to redeem him back and to bring him to be fully understood within the Hebrew context, the Torah. Okay, and even the Vilna Gaon said that, this word is related to the word pidyon, which means redemption of the soul. You've got to give a monetary value over. So we can see 876 is 4 times 229. It's also 2 times, this 438 is 2 times Moshiach ben Dawid, which comes to 424 plus Dawid 14. So if you add those together, Moshiach ben Dawid and Dawid comes to 338. So even though this and the ransomed of Zion shall return, Zion has that exact same gematria as Yosef, and Zion is an appellation for Moshiach ben Yosef according to Vilna Gaon. But like I say, you cannot separate the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef from the concept of Moshiach ben Dawid, because without Moshiach ben Yosef there is no Moshiach ben Dawid. He is the throne upon which Moshiach ben Dawid sits. Okay, talked about it a lot. And they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower. This comes to a regular of 219. This is the Gibborim. This is part of the Erev Rav. We've had Amalek, haven't we? This is another powerful aspect of the serpent that keeps us in that state of chaos, bohu and tohu, total and utter chaos. They're always trying to take us back into more and more chaos, which creates more and more separation and conceals more and more of the unity. Okay, so these are the forces that we have to go against. They're the unholy serpent. Okay, so there's 5 aspects to the Erev Rav. There's the the initial letters spell out the Nega Ra, which means evil plague, and I've said that is definitely linked up to this concept of the coronavirus all humanity has been facing of late, because the evil serpent has got 5 names: the Nephilim, the Gibborim, the Anakim, the Rephaim and the Amalekim, and the initial letters spell Nega Ra. So there's 5 aspects of the unholy serpent and there's 5 aspects of the Moshiach. So you've got Moshiach ben Yosef, is the tip of the Yod. So they conceal the name. Do you understand? 5 aspects to conceal the 5 aspects of the Moshiach, which represent his name that I talked about earlier. So you've got the tip of the Yod, which is Moshiach ben Yosef, the body of the Yod, the Chaya, which is Moshiach ben Dawid. Then you've got the first He, which is Moshe, the Vav, which is Yaakov, and then the final letter He. There's 2 women involved with this. There's 2 women involved, depending on which aspect of faith is correct in. The final letter here is predominantly Rachel. Okay. However, there is also the final letter here represented by a woman called Serach bat Asher, who finds the bones of Moses, and who's very much connected to overcoming the power of the serpent, the concealment. So when it comes to revealing the Mashiach, you've got the 5th aspect of the Mashiach being represented by Serach bat Asher, that final letter here, Serach bat Asher. When it comes to resurrection of the dead, it's the last letter of the name Yod He Waw is represented by Rachel. Okay, and there's numbers to prove that. I can't go into that at this time. But so the unholy serpent that conceals the name is made up of 5 parts. The holy Moshiach, the holy serpent, has got 5 aspects that are related to the name. So you've got the power to conceal the name and the power to reveal the name, the power to conceal the unity, the power to reveal the unity. Okay, we need to get out of serpent mode and into Mashiach mode. Okay, and we're somewhere in between, and all the time where we are in between some aspects of the serpent and some aspects of Mashiach, we will have Metatron over us. We're in still a process of rectification. We've still got the angel of God guarding us, and he's a slave who rules, so he basically treats us like slaves. He can't treat us like the children of God that we are, because we're not yet woken up to that reality. We've got to transition to go into the presence of the King over Kings of Kings, to reveal that unity. And this is part of that force that keeps us in exile. It's the serpent mentality. There's 5 aspects to it that conceal that unity, 5 aspects that reveal that unity. We've got to transition from this into Mashiach. The secret spelling out, first filling of the Torah. This is when the Vav is filled with an Aleph. So this is related to Moshiach ben Yosef. Comes to 657, which is 3 times 219. The secret spelling out of the Torah, sorry, the secret level of the Torah is directly related to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. He is the secret level of the Torah. The one who indeed he bore our illnesses and our pains and he carried them. This is the secret level of the Torah that needs to empower the final letter here, to elevate her up so she's got complete unity with the letter Vav. It's really a revelation of the Moshiach, okay? But the primary revelation of the Mashiach, or one of the most significant revelations of the Mashiach that we are trying to reveal in Edomite exile, which what we are in now, is a revelation, Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. Okay, and this is the truth that needs to be given to Yaakov, Od Yosef Chai. And it was Sarach bat Asher who told the truth to Yaakov. She was the one that, according to the sages, said the truth, Od Yosef Chai, to Yaakov, and she revived him. And through his being revived, he represents heaven, and Sarach bat Asher represents the final letter here, earth, and then there was unity between heaven and earth. Vaya Yosef, vaya Yesod. Okay? It's all glorious stuff. And then we've got this, which is incredible. Oh, just wait a minute. Okay, so this is a concept, very, very important. It's linked to the Zohar. Yod He Waweh plus Yisrael comes to 567. The ordinal for both is 90. Adding together 657. What is his name and what is the name of his son? We're going to look at some Zohar in a minute regarding that. Basically, there's a question asked in Proverbs 30, verse 4. It says, who was ascending into heaven, and it asks the questions, what is his name and what is the name of his son? We'll have a look at the Zohar that answers that. But this unity between Yisrael is his name, and the name of it, sorry, Yod He Waweh is his name, and the name of his son is Yisrael. Okay, and then it's linked again to Moshe. We'll see. We've got this verse here, which is all about David. It's all linked to David going up, ascending. So this word Ehle is very much linked to King David, and we can see that through this verse here. And it was after this that David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go up into one of the cities of Yehuda? And the Lord said to him, go up. David said, where shall I go up? And he said, to Hebron. Okay, that comes to, the Mispar Gadol comes to 3,852, 747 ordinally, ordinally, comes to 4,599, which is 21 times 219, so linked up to here. This whole concept of Moshiach ben Yosef is linked up. This is, Hebron is where King David spent 7 years of his kingship. He was first king in Hebron, and then he went up to be king in Jerusalem after that. Okay, so it's all very much connected. And then we've got here, for with you is the source of life, in your light we see light. This is very much connected to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. And it's also here, look, the Mispar Gadol and the ordinal together come to 3,088, which is 2 times 1,544, 8 times 386, which is Yeshua. It's also connected to the verse of leprosy. This here, 1,266, is the 2 words that Yosef uttered whilst he uttered to the cupbearer to get him out of prison, and who constituted a lack of faith in the name Yod He Waweh, so he was an extra 2 years in prison, and these 2,000 years in Edomite exile of the Moshiach ben Yosef suffering in Edomite exile parallel those 2 years that Yosef spoke, and he spoke the words, take me out, remember me and take me out, and remember me to Pharaoh and take me out of here. And those 2 words are linked to this verse because it comes to 1,266. Okay, so we can see lots of connections to Yosef and this verse. And then, and you shall make an ark cover of pure gold 2.5 cubits its length and 1.5 cubits its width. So basically this is the Ark of the Testimony, and like I say, there's 3 testimonies associated with that: the stone tablets, Moshe, the bread of manna that were outside of the Ark, and Aaron's rod that was also placed outside the Ark. They're Moshiach ben Yosef and Moshiach ben Dawid. And they're the holy serpent. It's not really a serpent, it's the letter Aleph. The upper yod, the vav, and the lower yod, instead of the head, the body, and the tail. We're going to come to this number. I've just seen another number which is very important. Oh, here, look, and this 747, that will come up shortly again. But you can see how all these major concepts are related up to here. Accounted him as played, smitten by God, and oppressed. Now we're going to have a look at this number, 1041. Secret in the Peshat. So we talked about the secret level, the secret in the literal meaning of the Torah. So the final letter here represents the literal meaning of the Torah. Okay, the tip of the Yod represents the secret level of the Torah, or the secret of secret levels of the Torah even. The tip of the Yod is the secret of secrets, and the Yod is the secrets. So this must be within the literal interpretation of the Torah. If the literal interpretation of the Torah does not contain the hidden secret meanings, and I've done teachings on this previously, then it's in a diminished state, it's in an exiled state. Without the inner secret meanings of the Torah, the letter He is like the letter Daleth. She's missing the letter Yud, that would be the foot of the He. Let me try. So you've got the letter He here. That's like a Dalet and a Yud, the little bit that's the foot underneath. Without the secret inner meaning of the Torah, she's just like a Dalet, and a Dalet is a poor person. The letter Dalet represents a poor person. She's in a diminished state. She needs that inner secret Torah, and I've talked about that. Where did Yod He Wawe hide that? He hid it in the darkness, and that's why she's had to suffer all this darkness in order to get out that hidden secret meaning that enables her to be raised up to create that unity between the letter Vav and the letter He. Okay? So the secret in the literal meaning of the Torah. There is no literal meaning of the Torah without the secret hidden meaning of the Torah. So these are all the ways in which you can fill out. This is Sod, secret. 95, by the way, is Hamelech, the king. So these are the ways that secret can be filled out. With the Vav filled with the Vav Vav, the Vav with the Vav Aleph, and the Vav with the Vav Yod, representing the 3 aspects of Moshiach: Moshe, Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben Dawid. If you add them all up together, the regular and the ordinal, this is the regular and the ordinal, and you add it up with the actual word for secret, so the first filling out plus the actual word for secret, the 95, it comes to 2082, which is 2 times 1041. So linked directly to this. This is the secret, him suffering with us in exile. And it goes back to what I was saying. That's where you get the unity, through that suffering, because he has not left us alone with our suffering. He has suffered with us. So we are him and he is us. We are the aspect of the suffering servant in exile. We are enduring the suffering, but he is enduring it with us. We are united in that suffering. Okay, and we will be united in the healing. Okay, we're completely and totally one. There is absolutely no separation between this Moshiach suffering and our suffering. There's no separation. He and we are one in that suffering, and we will be one in the redemption from it. 303 is the ordinal, 278 plus the ordinal of secret comes to 303, which is Etz Chaim, the regular and ordinal of Etz Chaim, tree of life. 228 is 4 times 57. 57 is HaMoshiach. So you've got the whole concept of Moshiach there, haven't you, as well? Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has shone upon you. So this comes to 1042. So if we take this whole concept of the suffering servant and add 1 Kalel to it, we get to the 1042 here. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has shone upon you. This is where we reach those elevated levels of consciousness and redemption from this exile. And the dove returned to him at eventide, and behold, it had plucked an olive leaf in its mouth. So Noah knew that the water had abated from upon the earth. So this is the redemption again, isn't it? And it comes to 3,123, which is 3 times 141. And here again, you've got the concept of the 747, which if we go back, just let me remind you of that in the verse that we just looked at with King David. So we had this verse from King David, didn't we? That also contained a mispag gadol, 747. So this is a very important, significant verse regarding the kingship of David. Okay, and him going up, ascending levels of consciousness to reveal that concept of Moshiach that bears the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Okay, so it's connected to this, the whole redemption. And I've gone over this loads. There's loads of aspects to this that are really important. But 747 times 5, Moshe the man of God, 747. So again, it's the concept of Moshiach. That's what's we need to be redeemed. Is the concept of Moshiach. Also Moshe ben Amram. So Moshe son of Amram, 747. It's exactly the same as Moshe the man of God. It's the concept of Moshiach. Who else is it the same as? It's a contradiction. Because contradict means to deny the truth by asserting the opposite. We haven't been given the concept of Moshiach. We've been given the opposite, the serpent that denies the truth. The unity that the Moshiach reveals is denied. This is concept. It's hidden. Satira. It's connected to Esther. Hidden. The truth has been hidden in the serpent. It's for us to take the serpent to reveal the truth, the unity. Separation to reveal the unity. And Yeshua Notzri, Yeshua the Notzri. Okay, 747. 117 is a filling out of Yeshua, the ordinal filling out of Yeshua when the Vav contains the Aleph. No, when the Vav is the Vav. Okay, so we can see that's also related to Yeshua. And if we add 2 Kalel for Yeshua HaNotzri, we get Yeshua HaMoshiach, 749. What is his name? So go back to when we asked that question, didn't we? What is his name? What is the name of his son? It comes from here. Rabbi Shimon opened a discussion with who has ascended up into heaven and come down again. Very significant Messianic verse this. Who has gathered the wind in his fist, and who has bound the waters in his garment? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is the name of his son's name, if you can tell? Mishle 34, so that's Proverbs 34. We explain this verse together with its many interpretations. It is all said about the Holy One, blessed be he, which is all. And we learned what is his name, what is the name of his son, if you can tell. This is the Holy One, blessed be he. What is his name? Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. And the name of his son is Israel, as it is written, Israel is my son, my firstborn, from Shemot, Exodus 4:22. And we already talked about it, and we explained that who has ascended up into heaven refers to Moses, as it is written. He said to Moses, come up to Hashem, Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, from Shemot 24:1. Okay, so we had that, didn't we? We had the Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, and we had we've had this connected to that 219, didn't we? 219 of oppressed, smitten by God. But then we had the regular and the ordinal of oppressed, smitten by God coming to 1041. So this is connected twice to that oppressed of God. Let me just go back so that you know. So we've just come across this Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, Israel, and I said I would point it out. So this is 3 times 219. 219 is the ordinal of oppressed, smitten by God, etc. Okay? So, but this is also the regular and the ordinal added together. The 822 plus 219 comes to 1041. Okay, so we can see that we've got Yisrael. Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh is his name. Yisrael is his son. And the one who ascended up to heaven is Moshe, or the Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. If we add them all up together, Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, Yisrael, the regular and the ordinal, 657, which is linked to this verse, the 219 of this verse, 3 times 219, like I've just said. If we add that to Moshe, we get the 441. The regular and ordinal of Moshe is 441. This 90, which is the ordinal of Yod He Wawe and Yisrael, plus the 39 ordinal of Moshe, add those together comes to 129, which is the ordinal of Moshiach ben Ephraim. So again, we've got another aspect of Moshiach. And then we've got this question that Yosef asked, because am I in place of Elohim? Okay. It comes to, these are the regular, that's the regular, and then that's the ordinal. It comes to 1,134, which is 2 times 567, which is linked to here. So we know Moshiach ben Yosef, when he asked that question, because am I in place of Elohim, asking that to his brothers, there is a very hidden meaning of this, because in one way he was in place of Elohim, i.e. he was in place of Yitzchak, and this is exactly the same word, Tachath Bano, instead of his son, Tachath Bano, in place of Yitzchak. So in one way it could be read, it could be saying, it says, because am I in place of Elohim? It could be, instead of a question, it could be simply a statement, because I am in place of Elohim, i.e. I, Yosef, came instead of Yitzhak, who's represented by the name Elohim, who's represented by the darkness, who's represented by all the harsh punishments. I've come instead of that, so that we can be brought over to the right hand of, that's the left hand of divinity, so that we can all be brought over to the right hand of divinity. And from the perspective of when that kindness is revealed to us, that comes from the right hand side of divinity, it's there we see the unity clearer, because the chesed represents revelation. Gevura, the left hand side of divinity, is what conceals the name of Yod He Wawe, but Yod He Wawe hid the concept of the Moshiach in the darkness that is represented by the left hand side, i.e. the exile that we suffer in. So there's all kinds of links to this. Okay. And then Joshua ben Nun, another appellation for Moshiach ben Yosef, is all connected to this as well. Okay. So just going to quickly go over this. We've already gone through these numbers, but it says, but Yosef said to them, don't be afraid, for am I instead of Elohim? Like I say, it could easily be saying, because I am instead of God. You see, I've had to come into Egypt and suffer this exile. Moshiach ben Yosef had to come into Edom and suffer the Edomite exile for ultimate salvation, to be able to, to be able to take us from a place of concealment of the name Yod He Wawe, which is the left-hand side, the Yitzhak that conceals, Elohim conceals the name Yod He Wawe to a certain degree, and bring that concealment itself, use that concealment itself as the very source of revelation to bring us into the right-hand side of divinity, and attached to the chesed, the kindness of Yod He Wawe. Okay? I've gone through those numbers already. So we've got this as well, front and back you have formed me. So, through the suffering and also the good times, I have been formed. Both the suffering that we've experienced forms us, and it makes us in the image of Yod He Wawe. Okay, nothing will be wasted. There's purpose in absolutely everything, even the horrific suffering that we've endured. The Mispar Gadol, if we take the Mispar Gadol and the regular and add them together, they come to 2,790, which is 5 times 558. 558 is Yaakov, 182, plus Esav, 376. That's unity between body and soul. That's unity between Israel and the nations. That's unity between physicality and spirituality. Okay? So it's all about unity. The bad experiences and the good experiences. They form us, they make us who we are, they make us whole and complete, they make us very good. So again, this comes to 3,123, which is 3 times 1,041, connected back up to there and connected back up to oppressed of Yod He Wawe. And God called the dry land earth. This is very significant because the dry land represents redemption. We went through the Red Sea on dry land, okay? 1041, which is 3 times 347, and it's an ordinal of 186, and 886 is a square ordinal of Yod He Waw He. So it's basically connected to, the dry land represents a revelation of the name Yod He Waw He. In some way it's connected to that. What was his name was already called. So this is taken from Proverbs as well. I can't go into why that's connected to Moshe, but it is connected to Moshe in some way. 186 connected back to that, and also to the square ordinal of Yod He Waw He is 186. The square ordinal of Adam is also 186. So when we are fully rectified, and Adam is fully rectified, and Adam is the revelation of the Moshiach, the name of Yod He Waw He, there's no difference. Look, the square ordinal of Adam is exactly the same as the square ordinal of Yod He Waw He. Yod He Waw He is one, and his name is one. His name through a unified Adam, a rectified Adam, Moshiach, is one, just as Yod He Waw He is one. There's no separation. O Shepherd of Israel, hearken. So we've got the concept of the Shepherd of Israel, which is Moshiach, and there's like the 7 shepherds to be found within Judaism. 1041, exactly the same as all this. Exactly the same as oppressed and smitten by God. 894 is 2 times 447, which is 2 times Emeth and truth. That's one of the 13 attributes of mercy. And 1041 is 3 times 347, which is connected up to here as well. To dry land, le yabosa. Again, we've got this concept of the dry land. It represents Yod He Waw He to some degree. Here we can see this up here, 186. The dry land is covered by the waters. The dry land which is hidden under the waters needs to be revealed, and then we go dry shod over. That's what it's really referring to, the hidden name of Yod He Waw He. Okay, that's the dry land. The 50th level, that's an ordinal of 50, referring to the 50th level when we understand the concept of the suffering. When we understand that suffering, and it's no longer a concealment but a revelation. It's very difficult to take this level of suffering that we've got, but that from the degree of concealment will become the degree of revelation. So we know, because of the horrific way in which we have been subject to suffering, from that same horrific level of concealment will become a glorious level of revelation, because you cannot have one without the other. Okay, that's the way that it was willed to be, for an ultimate glorious good. The anti-Moshiach is also 347. So this is the ultimate revelation, isn't it? Armelus, anti-Moshiach. The Moshiach reveals, the Armelus, the anti-Moshiach conceals. 347 is the 70th prime number, probably from 1, which is the letter Ayin, 70. We cannot see the dry land because of the Armelus, the anti-Moshiach. And plus, look at this as well, 347 plus 77 ordinal is 424, which is Moshiach ben Dawid. So he is the absolute opposite Moshiach. Yosef is still alive, so this is another thing the anti-Moshiach tries to conceal, the truth, or Yosef Chai, comes to 346 plus 1 Kalel, because it's hidden. We need, and where is it hidden? In the Torah, which represents the Torah rich, which is represented by water. Yosef was hidden. The bones of Yosef is hidden in the Torah, or the truth, or Yosef Chai, is hidden in the Torah, which is represented by the water. That's why Moshe, you need to bring the bones of Yosef up out of the water. It symbolises Torah. The name Yod He Waw He is hidden in the Torah, the water. We need to reveal the dry land. We need to reveal the dry land beneath the Torah, the words of the Torah. The words of the Torah can be like a tree of life or a tree of knowledge of good and evil. They're only the tree of life when we reveal that's hidden. The name Yod He Waw He. The words of the Torah can be the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They can be the revolving sword. They can prevent us from accessing the tree of life itself.
We got to have for redemption to occur. We are redeemed when the hidden name is revealed. The name Yod He Wah is revealed. The name Yod He Wah is revealed through the truth of Yosef Chai. It was Yosef's coffin that caused the sea to split, to reveal that dry land, upon which Bnei Israel were able to go through, and the Egyptians were drowned. Okay, it's the name of Yod He Wah that is the single most important thing, and the Torah that we have got, okay, hidden in that is the name Yod He Wah. Just as the angel of God that represents duality is a pillar of cloud at night and also pillar of fire to the Egyptian side, or our unrectified side is a pillar of fire, to our good side is a pillar of light. We've got to get out of that. We've got to reveal that there's only Yod He Wah, nothing else beside him. Okay? Messianic consciousness. So we've got this as well. Moshiach ben Dawid, with the additional letter Yod, rectified. Moshiach ben Yosef, spelt with an additional letter Yod. Okay? So Yosef is a verb used. It means to add to. And Yosef was promised a double portion, which is Shechem. It's all very significant. That's where he's actually buried. Which is very significant. Okay, but sometimes in the Torah, Yosef is used as a verb. So there's a few times in Torah where Yosef is spelt like this, not as the name Yosef, but as the verb Yosef, to add to. So if we spell Moshiach ben Yosef with the double portion, the double Yod, just as Moshiach ben Dawid has got a double Yod, it comes to 126. Moshiach ben Ephraim, 129, which we've already come across in Moshiach ben Ephraim, haven't we? It comes to 347 anyway, it's all connected. It's a concept of Moshiach that reveals, unites Adam as one, that reveals the name Yod He Wah and nothing else beside him. Okay, I think I've just done it now, haven't I? Have I gone through it all? Yeah, so with that I will say shalom, I think. Yeah, that's it. I've finished, but there is another lesson to come after this lesson. So subscribe. I hope you've really enjoyed it, and I hope you've been edified by it. And may we soon see that unity of the name Yod He Wah revealed in all of our lives throughout all creation. And let us say